I've been a mountaineer for 9 years, and I've always been a big fan reading about the expeditions of the past when people were exploring the mountains for the first time. But I was born in the wrong century to take part in those kinds of expeditions.
Pile out, gang.
And so I decided, wouldn't it be cool to reenact one of them?
You guys should get into your period clothing now. So this is a shirt from 1916. The style is from Edwardian times.
We're going to climb a mountain called Bugaboo Spire, which was first climbed 100 years ago. And we're going to climb it in the same way it was done in 1916.
Nope. Okay. Jose,
Just packing up my pack.
Using the same gear they used, camping out the same way they did, eating the same food they did.
What's your paper?
And we're going to experience what it was like to do the toughest climb in North America at that time and for decades thereafter. A lot of climbers today are used to creature comforts that they didn't have 100 years ago.
This is black loose leaf tea.
I think it's going to be challenging for us to rough it out in the old way.
I hope nobody's using bug spray. You guys, no bug spray. No, they didn't use bug spray in 1916.
One of the main obstacles we're going to face on this climb is going to be climbing in gear that we have no idea how it works. These are hobnail boots, which are what climbers wore 100 years ago. Pieces of metal are driven into the sole, and they give grip and traction on snow and ice. None of us have climbed in hobnail boots. No one has in decades.
Okay, now let's get the...
Now the adrenaline starts flowing and the excitement starts. And now all the hard work is now fully realized why we're coming here and doing this. Because the mountains are the most spectacular place anyone could be.
So now we have 700 pounds of gear and equipment and food that we have to get up to our staging area, up a very steep approach that takes about 3 hours, 4 hours.
Hauling the loads up at elevation with these old packs is an unbelievably difficult task. Modern packs have a strap system that transfer all the weight to your hips, good ergonomics, all these features that make it conform with your body shape, with your back. All these aspects are missing from these old packs. They're extremely uncomfortable.
At this rock.
15 minutes in and disaster has already struck. We have broken both straps on the tent pack. So obviously our inexperience with these old packs, this old technology that can't take such huge loads.
So we got to take out some of the weight. And jury rig the straps again. Someone's going to take these cookies though.
The first person to climb Bugaboo Spire was a man named Conrad Kain. Conrad Kain was an Austrian who grew up in poverty, lived in the mountains, and became a mountain guide. And the Alpine Club of Canada hired him to come to Canada and to guide members of the Alpine Club. He put up dozens of first ascents in mountains that many people were never able to climb, and open up mountaineering for Canada. There were 4 people on the original expedition in 1916, which is why there are 4 of us doing the climb now.
Okay.
Conrad Kain was the guide.
Conrad Kain was pretty badass, and very few people, would be willing to undertake that climb.
A couple, Albert and Bess McCarthy.
To do a project like this in such an environment is just awe-inspiring.
So the mountains are very, very beautiful.
Just to look at them, you're already a different person.
And a young man named John Vincent. So I always revered Conrad Kain and those who climbed with him because of their guts and their strength and fortitude and their spirit of adventure.
Well, we finally made it up to Appleby Dome, and now we got to find a good place to set up our humongous canvas tent.
I told us in costume putting it up. Yeah.
That window too.
The wind can help.
Setting up the tent at Appleby Dome, I had a lot of apprehension about how it was going to behave in the wind.
We want the bad window facing that way, right?
The wind is right now. It's coming from there now.
Coming from there now.
I had a previous experience here where a big storm came through and wiped out 7 tents, and 3 of them were never found. So that's all going through my head while we're setting up this thing, which at first glance appears to be a giant sail.
There, yeah. So what we're trying to do right now is just get rocks down on the corners. Big rocks to hold down corners like that.
We had to get as many rocks as possible. Big ones, little ones. Yeah. And basically no weak spots. All the wind needs is one little spot to blow under the tent and it's airborne.
I think this is gonna work. I think we got her.
That's definitely the most time I've spent in my entire life to set up one tent.
Yes, same here. Well, next, if you guys want to put the fir branches all down,
Done.
I'm gonna start cooking dinner.
Time to make our beds.
We have to sleep on spruce branches because they didn't use air mattresses. So we're gonna lay spruce branches out on the rock and wrap ourselves up in our wool blankets on top of the spruce branches. So this is a 100-year-old kerosene holler stove.
So coming from a background of having worked as a chef, I had a particular interest in the foods that Kain would eat.
Goat meat in there.
My goal to make only the kinds of foods, or mostly the kinds of foods that Kain would have made in the backcountry.
So I'm cutting up some potatoes here to put into my goat stew. Getting late.
While I'm trying to cook my goat stew, it starts to rain. 100 years ago, they didn't have rain jackets. I remember somebody asking me, well, what did you do? What did they do when it rained? And I remember saying to them, they got wet.
We're hoping that this rain is going to blow over soon. And we're not sure how well this canvas tent's going to do with rain. It's made for snow.
Brian insisted that we had the true feel of the 1916 experience. That we absolutely bring nothing from 2016 to help us in any way, shape, or form to be comfortable.
So, what's with the Calvin Kleins, buddy? They didn't have
No one told me.
They didn't have Calvin Kleins in 1916.
No one told me I wasn't allowed to wear underwear.
I'm not going to let anybody use modern rain jackets. We're getting wet, we have to get wet. And we have to do everything the way they did 100 years ago. And I'm being very strict about that. I'm surprised nobody's thrown me off the side of the mountain yet. And the stove is taking forever to bring the stew to a boil. Meanwhile, you know, Rob and Natalia are in the tent saying, where's our goat stew? They're starving.
We had worked hard all day, but the one driving force we had, we were looking forward to this wonderful goat stew with dumplings.
The stove has altitude sickness. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it still hasn't boiled.
When we finally realized we're not going to get the stew to boil, we're going to have to now just eat whatever cold food we have around, which isn't much that we'd brought up.
This one for now.
So I pull out a bag of cookies.
Another cookie.
And we're all like, oh, cookies.
They had these in 1916?
They did?
No way.
Normally I wouldn't eat this, but Right now they are very good.
And then I have a couple of sausages, just like pepperoni sticks that we start munching on, and Natalia has some almonds. And that's all we can eat for supper, knowing that we have a big climb tomorrow, but that's what we got.
Oh, I wish Gary would get here with my coat. There we go. Look at that roaring flame.
That's a roaring flame.
Meanwhile, it's raining and we're all getting cold, and all we can do is keep sheltering inside the tent and trying to wrap ourselves in the wool blankets and huddle in for warmth. Where's Gary? How come he's not up here suffering like we are?
Well, it's about time.
We're soaked. Gary joins us. He's wet because he's hiked up after carrying a load, and the blankets are getting wet because there's no tent on the floor, so the water's just running in on the rock, and the spruce branches kind of absorb it all like a sponge, and then so do the wool blankets.
Can you move over a little?
Okay, oh God. It's wet and cold. And when it's on your back, your whole body has all the heat sucked out of it. Definitely the worst experience I ever had sleeping in my entire life.
And you think it's just going to dry
We
up?
didn't really have enough blankets or didn't cover ourselves properly. Even though we were huddled together, we could feel each other shivering.
I was sleeping at the edge of the tent where all the water was leaking down towards me, so my blanket was really, really wet. So you both can have...
Natalia says to me, I can't take this anymore, Brian, I'm sorry. I have to use the sleeping pad and I have to use my sleeping bag to keep dry and to keep warm. At that point, I'm so frustrated with being wet and cold through and what we're all going through. I just say, you know what, do what you want.
I suppose you want a pillow now.
Yes.
Here.
Yes, I do.
A pack?
Here's your...
Oh.
Gentle, Brian, gentle.
If this is what they went through in 1916, man, they were tough people.
So we woke up 3 in the morning, freezing, shaking, and wet, ready to embark on this phenomenal endeavor. And yet we feel absolutely helpless. We're so cold.
We'll warm up quick.
We're setting out to climb Bugaboo Spire in 100-year-old gear. And as we're heading to the mountain, what's going through my mind is, will the gear work?
Well, it has to.
How will we all be able to move in hobnail boots? Will they work well in the snow?
Wow, fantastic condition.
Hope this holds.
The first obstacle we arrive at on the start of the climb is a thing called the Bugaboo Snowpatch Call. A call is a saddle between two mountains. It's like a very, very steep snow and ice slope that you have to ascend in order to start the climb. It's a very dangerous place to be because there's a lot of rockfall that comes down there. It's the place where the most accidents happen here, the most deaths occur.
I'm a little nervous with this flimsy thing.
My ice axe, my alpenstock, is extremely thin and even bendable. It's so fragile. It's 100 years old. I have no idea if it's going to hold me in any kind of an accident. One of the things that made Conrad Kain an outstanding mountain guide was his ability at route finding, which is being able to see a route up a mountain that had never been climbed, in some cases that had never even been seen up close, that they could safely go up.
The Kain route, it is basically a granite ridge, a steep granite ridge, and you just have these little features, these little walls, these little corners that you have to climb.
Climbing in 1916 equipment, it was difficult, much more challenging, much more risky. Everything was much harder than I thought it would be.
Those hobnail boots are really bad. They would sometimes slide, just like wearing skates. They weren't great.
They're not very good for jamming into cracks. They're not very compromising. They're such big, rigid boots.
Untangling the rope. How did this happen? It's like mating snakes.
As we get to the steeper part of the mountain, we have to bring out the hemp rope to protect ourselves from a fall, and we're not sure how it's going to perform. The hemp rope they used 100 years ago is just this thick braided rope made from hemp that wasn't stretchy at all like our modern climbing ropes are.
We used the hemp rope a bit, and I liked it. It was not a problem. Tied a knot around your waist, and away you went. Brian falls, I could hold him. This rock is solid, and friction around my waist, I just do this.
It's not the kind of thing you want to fall on because the rope just rides up on your body, and I can understand how people would break their ribs or even their back in long falls on that hemp rope.
Play it up, Brian. Make it look difficult.
I remember thinking, wow, you have to move very delicately, very carefully. You can't take the kind of chances that we sometimes take today with our modern safety equipment because we know that if we do fall, it's not such a big deal.
This is really cool climbing with this. I
feel like you're just beaming.
I feel like I'm right out of 1910.
Yeah.
You know, this is...
And you know what? You look at.
Totally.
This is awesome.
The view from up there really is amazing. You look out and you see these gigantic granite spears of rock thrust up out of the beautiful white glacier and snow, and it's one of the most incredible places on Earth for sure.
At this point, we notice that the weather is starting to turn bad.
What concerns me, I see these cumulus clouds are forming out of the valleys over here, and that can generate thunderstorms.
Good lead, Conrad.
Good lead, Conrad.
So we called it a day, just a couple hundred meters from the summit.
This is what you call retreating when you run out of time and you run out of weather.
I didn't want to be up there and get rained on in that gear. Being cold, hypothermic, you make bad decisions, you stumble. A fall is serious, if not fatal.
Going down off a mountain can often be more dangerous than ascending the mountain. And we actually experienced our first equipment failure when we were descending the Bugaboo Snowpatch Col, and Rob's alpenstock broke.
Here's the two pieces. This stuck into the slope.
And he went for a 30-meter slide down the snow and had to stop himself with just the broken stump of his ice axe.
I think pretty hard. I got
See that?
So the first attempt on Bugaboo Spire, we had to back off because the weather was closing in on us. So we had to come back a second time and used modern gear to get through it quickly and get up to our high point and carry on from there.
Are you still in hobnail boots?
Hell no.
Did you leave them down?
No, I have them on me.
We had known from the very beginning that when we got to some of the technical stuff, we wouldn't be doing it purely the way Conrad Kain did, because it's just not safe, and we're not professional climbers. We're not superhuman athletes.
So we are waiting for the rest of the crew to cross this exposed section.
And now we have to decide who's going to go to the summit, because we have too big a party to all go to the summit together.
Yeah, I'm just looking what's below, and there's like nothing.
Gary is not all that comfortable going over some of the terrain unroped. Neither am I.
Gary, you can do this.
Yeah.
If I did it, you can do it too.
There's no fucking way I am stepping down onto that dish.
I was spooked, to be honest, and that's why I didn't summit. I just wasn't willing to solo on on fatal terrain with a pack.
Gary and I are done.
You chicken out.
He wants to go to the top of the
Come on, we still need to get to the summit in hobnail boots.
So we have to make a choice. Rob and Natalia go on to the summit. Gary and I stay behind. And, you know, that's a disappointment. You want to be able to touch the summit and the four of us be up there, but we would have taken way too long on the mountain. If we'd have done it that way, we would be coming down on the mountain in the dark. And that would have been dangerous. So it was the right call, but it was a tough call to make. So the last obstacle that Rob and Natalia face before getting to the summit is this feature called the gendarme.
When we saw the gendarme for the first time, it was a bit of a cloud over us. Then the cloud just divided, revealing the gendarme, like an actor, Shakespearean actor.
The gendarme is something that's famous among climbers around the world. It's called a gendarme because it vaguely looks like a squatting policeman guarding the summit. And it's an obstacle that blocks the entire ridge that you have to climb around. When Conrad Kain first climbed Bugaboo Spire, it took him over an hour and a half to figure out the moves to get around the gendarme. The reason the gendarme is such a challenge is because there's really no holds for your feet. It's all friction, and there's very little to hold onto with your hands, and you have to do this reach across with a 2,000-foot drop below your feet. Rob, who's a very experienced climber and who's using modern climbing gear to protect himself, makes pretty short work with the gendarme. From my vantage point where I had stopped, I could see Rob and Natalia on the summit, posing in their 1916 gear, and I had a sense of elation. You know, we had accomplished what we'd set out to do.
At the summit, it felt like you are almost close to the sky.
Standing on the summit is the greatest experience anybody can have. When you're there, you have a perspective of the entire terrain around you. It's like being in an airplane or a helicopter, only you earned every inch of it. The biggest thing I learned from this experience is how tough those people were back then, and the incredible nerve that Conrad Kain had.
Having a little nap there, are you? I am. You know what?
I mean, I actually expected that we'd be able to do it in the way Brian planned, and what I came to realize is just no way. I mean, that's what I was thinking the whole time I was climbing this. I can't believe they did this.
People tend to be nostalgic, but the reality is that now, in the present, is the best time to live.
We undertook this experience because we wanted to know what it was like to camp, to live in the mountains in the same way that Conrad Kain did. But one of the things I totally missed in all of my research was the incredible bond and camaraderie that they all had for one another.
Just to save my friends from suffering as much as I am.
Having gone through this experience, the bond that we four have formed,
I'm not ashamed to say there's some spooning going on.
that has really been, for me, what the whole expedition has ended up being about.